Hey guys, what's up? That is Am I Wrong, a new top 40 song that came out probably a couple of months ago. It's one of the better ones from today's modern day era, in my opinion. What's up? This is Ryan Lambert rocking you through your Thursday afternoon right here on KTAI FM. You can check me out from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. each and every Thursday. I will periodically be delivering some good old-fashioned common sense to the American people in honor of the founding father Thomas Paine, who wrote the pamphlet and helped unite the people and enlighten them mentally about what was going on in the world. Well, if you want to know what's going on here at Tamook, you can come out on Saturday to the football field to check out our home game. It's going to be our first game, and it's going to be against Humboldt State at 7 p.m. here at Javelina Stadium. We will be airing the game here on 91.1 FM, and live radio coverage will be starting at 6:40 p.m. The Javelina Broadcast Network will also be airing the game online at tamook.tv. Well, today, as we know, is September 4th, 2014. We are literally 7 days away from the anniversary of 9/11, which really took the nation by storm and gave us the element of surprise. So many people think that 9/11 was actually the first attempt at taking out the World Trade Center, but little do people know they actually had tried this once before in 1992 or 1993, whenever George Bush Sr. was in office. Was it a real attack, or was it an event to create a witch hunt? Is the War on Terror, is it a modern-day version of the ancient Salem witch trials, or is it real? As we know, President Ronald Reagan once said that the 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, "I'm from the government, and I'm here to help." So, can we really trust these elite people who we're giving a monopoly of force to? Is it wise to submit all of your rights in exchange for proposed security? Or is prison just another form of maximum security? On the way, we're going to be hearing from Chris Wallace and Slap Top, other music on the way as well, and I will be delivering some good old-fashioned common sense periodically throughout the day. Like I said, come out to Javelina Stadium September 6th, this Saturday, against Humboldt State. Kickoff is at 7 p.m. at Javelina Stadium. If you cannot make it out there, be sure to tune in to KTAI FM or tamook.tv, or you can catch the game right here at 6:40 p.m. on 91.1 The One. Hey guys, what's up? Taking over control, and that is apparently what our society has been facing lately with all of the governmental tyranny that has currently been escalating here at home in the United States. This is breaking today. According to an article on Infowars.com, there's an emerging of cell phone towers that they are now using to where they can intercept our data from cell phone calls or text messages. And, well, in my opinion, that is an obvious, blatant violation of our Fourth Amendment rights, because this kind of information, as most people don't understand, whenever it comes to data sharing or stealing someone else's data, the police have to have probable cause in order to use this data as evidence pertaining to any matters therein. And apparently we don't think that these are law enforcement people who are putting these towers up. And, well, is it right for them to be able to intercept our information? What do you think? Speaking of information, some vital information that you guys need to know if you are a student here at Texas A&M Kingsville. Wednesday, September 10th is the deadline for registration at 5 p.m., which is the 12th class date. Students will be dropped from classes if they have not paid in full or made payment arrangements with the business office. No reinstatement of classes. So that's something that you guys definitely need to take control of, speaking of control. And on the way, we're going to be hearing from John Mayer, New Politics, Rihanna, David Guetta on the way. It's all up next on 91.1 The One. That song's called Real and True. Miley Cyrus and Wiz Khalifa are the artists. The name of me is Ryan Lambert, and it is check that. It is Thursday, September 4th, 2014, 1 week before our 13th anniversary of 9/11, which was a huge tragedy that struck America and took us by surprise. Speaking of 9/11, could this war on terror, is it a real war, or is it just another losing bet that America is placing its faith in? And to really understand a war on terror, you really have to break down and understand what terrorism really is. And essentially, terrorism is nothing more than just government by intimidation. And what I mean by that is what they do, what they tell everybody is, hey, there's an enemy. It's called creating an enemy. It's one of the basic psychological warfare tactics that was used during World War II and also throughout the course of history. And this actually reminds me of something that we learned about in elementary school. If you guys remember, back in 8th grade or so, depending on the timing, we learned about a period in time during the 1600s called the Ancient Salem Witch Trials. And what they were doing was they were creating an enemy. It's almost like a marketing tactic with branding and labeling, where they have bells and whistles that the person that they're looking for fits the description of. It could be, oh, he has this color hair, he has this type of shoes, he wears a hat backwards, oh, so he's a this. And what that essentially does is it creates a divided society, and it's also a form of warfare called divide and conquer. And that's basically where they segregate each and every one of us into little check boxes with cookie cutter answers where they can independently attack each and every one of us and make this whole ubiquitous warfare perpetuate into a higher level of escalation. Another thing that I wanted to briefly mention was the NSA spying scandal. For those of you who haven't been aware of the NSA spying scandal, it's not just an Obama thing or a Republican thing or a Democrat thing. This has been going on since the 90s, ever since Homeland Security was put into place. And what they've been doing is essentially a violation of the Fourth Amendment. We look at what they did last December, or perhaps the December before that, whenever they got exposed on national television for the NSA spying scandal. Or was it during July? I need to double check that. But nevertheless, what happened was they were exposed for actually reading people's emails, and that's actually dangerous if you really think about it, because if we own separate companies, so let's say you own a company and I own a company, if the NSA is spying on us, and they say it's for our own safety, that's always why they make little rules. It's predicated on the misguided name of public safety. If I own a company, I own company A, you own company B, and if the NSA is able to read our emails, and if they see how we're collaborating about business, it's almost like that movie Wall Street, where they can steal insider information and then use it to buy stocks or purchase stocks or dump stocks, however they want to do it, in order to get the value in their favor. It's almost a conflict of interest. But speaking of interest, are you interested in Javelina football? If so, you can make your way on out to the stadium this Saturday, September 6th, for our home opening kickoff. It's going to be against Humboldt State. The game's going to start at 7 p.m. You don't want to be late. Everybody is going to be there. If for some reason you cannot make it to the game in physical person, we will be airing the game here on 91.1 FM as well as KTAIFM.com. And live radio coverage of Javelina football will start at 6:40 p.m. Also, the Javelina Broadcasting Network will be airing the game online at tamuk.tv. Thanks for listening. My name is Ryan Lambert. I'm keeping you here with some good old music and some good old common sense periodically between songs. On the way, we have more music from New Politics and One Direction. Don't go away. New Politics in Harlem, rocking you through another Thursday afternoon. Those guys actually made an appearance here at Texas A&M University, Kingsville during the fall of 2010, whenever they traveled with 30 Seconds to Mars during MTVU's Campus Invasion. Speaking of MTV, There will be an event coming up this week with Neb Schulman. It's going to be Tuesday, September 9th. That's actually next week. The host and star of MTV's Catfish will be speaking here at 7 p.m. in Jones Auditorium, and the event is free and open to the public. For more information, call 361-593-2760. Speaking of free, that's probably a good thing for most of us, because throughout the world, we've kind of noticed how wages are declining and how inflation is rising, and the two events simultaneously do not make a good combination. And one of the ways they're doing this is through hyperinflation. One of the ways they do this is through the dot-com stocks. And the reason specifically the dot-com stocks are involved with this is because there really isn't any tangible asset value behind their capital of what their company is composed of. Whenever I was studying accounting, we learned a basic equation that assets equal liabilities plus owner's equity. And for those of you who don't know what that means, our assets, what that is, that is what gives the company its worth. Your buildings, your vehicles, if you have patents on a certain product that your company produces, those are your assets. And your liabilities, those are bills that you owe, wages payable. If you borrow money from the bank on a note payable that you have to pay back, that's a liability. Your owner's equity is going to consist of how much your corporation owners own in comparison to the dividend payouts that your shareholders have based on how much they invest in your company. And the way this works is it's pretty tricky. Whenever the dot-com stocks do this, they say, oh, we have a company worth this much. Our company is big. We're worth this much on paper. But in reality, they really don't have any concrete assets backing them up. So what happens is investors get blindly attracted to this investment firm or this company with no assets, and they pull their money up, and then the company then uses the pooled money to pay each other back and each other's investor money, and then the whole pyramid Ponzi scheme collapses right before our very eyes. And that, my friends, is how companies usually fall down. Speaking of which, we have some positive news coming up this weekend. We're going to see our home kickoff for the Javelinas. It's going to be here at 7 p.m. at Javelina Stadium against Humboldt State. If you can't make it to the game in person, we will have live radio coverage here on 91.1 FM. It's going to air at 6:40. You can also listen online at ktaifm.com. And if for some reason you can't make that happen, we'll also have you covered on the Javelina Broadcast Network, and they'll be airing the game for free at tamuk.tv. On the way, we're going to hear from One Direction, Kylie Minaj, Don Omar, and Lucencio. It's all up next here on 91.1 The One.
We are 91.1.
Hey, that's One Direction and Story of My Life right here on 91.1 FM. Well, for all of us who are living here in America, the story of our lives is protecting and preserving our freedoms that were fought for and protected in our United States Constitution. As we all know, this November is going to be a very key turning point for our country, and we have a midterm re-election for the Congress, and the Senate is going to be getting re-elected as well, and that is going to be very important because the Senate is a big component of our congressional legislative branch. As we know, there are a lot of scandals on the table right now that have happened within the last 6 years, and my advice to you, I challenge you, the public, to pick a scandal. Do something about it. Do something locally. It doesn't have to just come straight from Washington, D.C. Not everything comes straight out of Washington. You know, we have state and local governments for a reason, as illustrated by the 10th Amendment in the United States Constitution. You can start with something like red light cameras, or a local city policy that you don't agree with, or traffic violations. It doesn't have to be the big stuff. You can start at that low of level and work your way up. The small people like me and you, every one of us, we each have a voice and we each have an opinion, and we have the ability to make an impact on our society for the better. And I encourage each and every one of you guys to exercise your rights this November and to let your voice be heard. For the most part, if we don't if we don't take a stand and come together, if we don't exercise our liberties, the elite will just assume that we don't care. They will assume that we have complacently accepted everything that they have spoon-fed to us, even if it's a lie. Liberty, it's in my opinion, from what I see, it's almost like a muscle when you work out. If you don't exercise it, you know how they say, if you don't use it, you lose it. Well, liberty, it's kind of the same thing there. If we don't use it, it will eventually get taken away from us. And our not founding father, Ronald Reagan, he was our president in the 1980s, and he had a quote. I don't know verbatim what he said, but it's something to the degree of, freedom is not something that we pass down genetically in our bloodstream to our children. It is something that must be fought for, accounted for, and protected. Otherwise, we will spend our sunset days telling our children and our children's children stories about what it was like to live in America where a man could be free. Well, we still have a great country, and we still have a lot of good things coming up this weekend that you guys can celebrate. Saturday, like I said earlier, there's going to be a football game here kicking things off for the home opener for your Javelinas. It's going to be against Humboldt State at 7 p.m. at Javelina Stadium. We will be airing the game here on 91.1 FM. Live radio coverage will begin at 6:40 p.m. and it will also be online at tamuk.tv. Another thing coming up before that, this Friday, there's a Javelina Athletics Hall of Fame banquet at 5:30 p.m. in the Memorial Student Union Building Grand Ballroom. Tickets can be purchased online at javelinatickets.com, and the deadline for purchasing tickets is Thursday, August 28th. Well, the deadline looks like it's already passed. So for those of you who are going, have fun at that. And if you can't make it to that, try to make it to the football game on Saturday. On the way, we're going to have music from Tiesto and Philip Phillips. Don't go away. This is 91.1, The One.
This is Kate.
That's Three Doors Down and Let Me Go right here on KTAI FM. What's up? Good afternoon. I'm Ryan Lambert, rocking with you 1 week before September 11th of 2014. This is September 4th. On the way, we're going to be hearing from, let's see, who do we have coming up? We have Tiesto, we have Coldplay, we have Philip Phillips. Also, if you're going to be hanging around here this weekend, stop on by the Javelina football game. We're going to be kicking off our home opener. It's going to be against Humboldt State. Kickoff is at 7 p.m. at Javelina Stadium. If you can't make it there in person, we'll also be airing the game right here on 91.1 FM as well as online at ktaifm.com. If you don't have a radio, we have you covered as well because tamuk.tv will also be airing the game through the Javelina Broadcasting Network. Alrighty, if you want to call us up, we can put something on the air for you, 593-5824. I may or may not be here. I don't know who's up next, but I'm sure someone will be able to take care of you. All right, don't go away.
Kingsville, Texas only has...
What an outro. That's always a great song to test your new microphones and speakers with if you ever needed to do a sound check. That's Coldplay, The Speed of Sound, right here on 91.1 FM. Good afternoon. I'm Ryan Lambert, rocking you through your Thursday afternoon. You can catch me here on Thursdays from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Here in a week or so, I'm going to be doing some topics, talking about some various things going on in the world, and it'll be called Common Sense in honor of Thomas Paine, who is one of our founding fathers. On Saturday, September 6th, you can come by Javelina Stadium and check out the home opening kickoff for your Fightin' Javelinas. Bring your tortillas. I don't know if they still do that or not, so don't take my word for it there. We will be airing the game also right here on 91.1 at 6:40 p.m. That's when you can catch live radio coverage. The Javelina Broadcast Network will also be broadcasting free at Tamuk.tv. And we'll also have even more live radio coverage on KTAIFM.com. Well, I have a question for you guys. Have you ever felt like you're being watched? You know that song where they say, I always feel like somebody's watching me. Well, guys, it's happening. It is here. It has been openly admitted that the NSA is using our search cookies from our computer searches and our smartphones to harvest data, and they use these for algorithmic predictions to predict human behavior. And they say that the spying is usually done for our own safety and for our own security against enemies, but they never really tell us who the enemy is. It's almost like a witch hunt that we're all being a part of. Nowadays, whenever they violate the Fourth Amendment, though, the government really doesn't even have to go that far out of their way in order to do so, because we, the citizens, allow it to happen. We carry around smartphones with cameras and microphones on them that surveil everything we do. And they're not always turned on, but they can turn it on whenever they want. If we look at history, this almost reminds me of an upgraded and recycled version of the British Quartering Act, which happened during the 1700s, and that's actually one of the reasons why our American Revolution started. For those of you who aren't familiar with the British Quartering Act, let me break that down for you real quick. The British Quartering Act, what that was, during the 1700s, whenever we were still colonies instead of America, the British government, British Parliament, had stipulations that they were putting on our American colonists, and they were saying, oh, there's an enemy that we have to protect you from. Let us keep you safe. The way we'll do it is by providing you with your own personal troop to be quartered in your home. Well, they made it sound good to the colonists at the time, but it's really psychological warfare, because if you look at what happened, if you look at the textbooks in our history classes that we all read, you see that the British Quartering Act was used to spy on colonial citizens and for the troops to give all information and all activity back to the British government. And they also were, another thing that was kind of baked into the cake was the British troops were using the colonists as hardworking people, and they were using their homes. It's like, oh, the colonists do all the hard work, they have their jobs, they milk the cows, feed the chickens, etc. And the tyrannical troops were just kind of freeloading, if you will. But like I said, nowadays, they don't have to have troops positioned in each of our homes, because they have smartphones that get all of the data that they need for them. Well, if you want to catch something interesting, you can stop by the Student Union building on Tuesday, September 9th. It's going to be a university lectureship series, presents Nev Schulman. Nev Schulman is the host and star of MTV's Catfish. He will be speaking at 7 p.m. on Tuesday, September 9th in Jones Auditorium. And if you need information, it is 361-593-2750, and the event is free and open to the public. You know what else is free and open to the public? Great music right here on 91.1 FM. We have Philip Phillips and DJ Tiesto coming up. That's it for me. I'm signing off. You can catch me next week again at 11 a.m. right here on KTAI FM 91.1 The One, Kingsville, Texas.
This is KTAI FM 91.1 from